Quack, 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 quack. That's right. Movies for Babies Month is still going. That wasn't just a joke. It's actually happening. So we watched The Mighty Ducks for this week's episode of...
Well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it all.
420, I'm a weed comedian.
Speaking of four, take four. We lost everything.
Then there was incriminating stuff on attempts 2 and 3.
Yeah. So Hastings has revealed to us that
He thinks he's a weed guy comic.
Well, no, he hasn't. He said that he wants weed to be legal because at the moment he doesn't do anything like that. But
And he seems to think that weed being legalized will help his career.
if weed was legal, he is saying that he'd be like a weed
I'm saying get me on the panel.
guy and you'd have a weed. But
you
like,
mean the panel with like Rob Sitch and Tom Glasner?
Yeah. Working bong.
but I'm saying of like
Oh God, that was a fucking stretch.
the Australian comedy scene. There's probably a long line of people who are like, I want to be the fucking weed.
I'm not saying I have to be the weed guy, but I'm saying I want to be in the conversation. I just
But
want
if you're
to
not
look
the weed guy, what's the point? Like,
Oh,
you
I
can
just-
only really have 1 to 2 weed guys a scene, I think.
I don't
I
think,
think I could be third. I reckon.
but I don't think you qualify at all.
Like, you've got your
because
Doug Benson.
Yeah. That's overseas. I'm talking made by ABC.
Yeah, I know, but then there's no other weed guys.
But I don't think you qualify
Kyle's the
at least
weed guy.
on stage because you
There's
barely.
no more weed than Kyle.
But you barely talk.
But he's a weed guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
but
it's a crime. These things all will change when it legalizes.
But like you barely talk about it on stage, and nothing about your onstage persona gives off that you're a big stoner.
Exactly.
You
This
also
is-
That's
have...
yeah, exactly. That
Can I
proves
make
exactly to our
Can
point.
I make
that's
my
why you're
point?
not a weed guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen what happens culturally in places where weed's legalized after it becomes legalized? The whole culture changes. It's this idea of like gentrified weed. So you have a guy who isn't a giggly stoner who's a stoner. That's perfect to fucking be a guest on your ABC panel show about weed.
No. No.
I agree with Jamie.
I see what you're trying to say, but
Yeah.
I'm saying
Kyle will not be the face of weed in 2025.
yes, I think he will be.
I do disagree.
I think like he will be because like he'll... there we go. He's just...
Hang on, we should point that out. Is you've just farted on the podcast, which you also did during the 40-minute chunk that we lost.
I think we
Which
need...
it should also be pointed out was Hastings' fault.
yeah, on a technicality, as in I
As in it
technically
was-
unplugged it.
Yeah. As in, technically, you did the wrong thing. Yeah, I think that you're too quick to say that like weed legalization will change the whole thing because like weed is legal in a lot of states in America. Who's the fucking weed comedian? It's Doug Benson still.
Yeah.
Who's still like
No,
I
but he's also
smoke
like
bongs.
there's also like Seth Rogen is more a face of weed publicly than Doug Benson is.
I'm talking about like stand-up comedy though.
Yeah,
we're
but
in
I
the
mean
world of
ABC's.
stand-up.
I mean Australia's tiny. There'll be like one. I'm saying just give it to me. That's all I'm saying.
You don't
But
think
give it to me.
John Cruikshank will very quickly overtake you?
That can't.
Well,
that
my-
cunt can find
my
me.
He's got a special out on YouTube called Weed Cunt.
I don't care.
My other thing that will work against you, honestly, is that you seem to have like a weird pride about how little weed kind of affects you.
It's not a pride. It's just because no.
No, it is a pride because you're always like, "Oh, I'm barely stoned.
Hear
Like,
me
this
out.
hasn't
Yeah,
done."
but
You're
I've had
mistaking
10 million
defensiveness for
bongs.
pride. I'm defensive about how much weed affects me because people always come at me when I'm like, dude, I'm not even that.
Is pride not a part of being defensive?
Yeah, but that's not the accusation. It's pride, but it's not pride in the thing. It's pride in yourself. It's a different kind of pride. Pride is obviously a part of being defensive.
Is that what you were talking about?
But I'm not proud of how little weed affects me. I'm defensive about how little it affects me. When people accuse me.
Yeah, because you're too proud.
Proud's not a word.
But
that
what
I
I'm
would-
saying is like you don't embrace weed. Like you're not like, "Oh, I'm a
Yeah,
high.
I'm not a weed culture
Yeah,
guy.
you're like, I'm not a high guy, so
No.
you can't.
No, I just have mental health problems.
Yeah, so it's like you don't like say like the drunkest dude isn't the person who's like, yeah, I barely drink. Like,
Yeah, but I don't say I barely smoke weed. I say I'm saying that. I'm saying I don't become
Who's the
impaired
souse?
by it.
Who's like the number one souse in Sydney comedy?
well, I knew
Like
who
who
it
has,
used
like-
to be, but he's been trotted out of the scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to name anyone. We also don't need to accuse anyone of being alcoholics on pod.
Yeah.
No, but I realize that's what the question sounded like, but like your thing is saying that you want to be the weed guy on stage. Like, is there anybody
no,
who
not on
like
stage.
But is there anybody who gives that like off,
You mean
on
like more
stage
like
about
a
being
Bert Kreischer, like I'm a party beer boy.
Yeah,
I'm a
I
little
guess.
beer boy.
who's the lout on stage? Is there one?
Hastings. No, it's not.
There's no
Hastings.
one that's like because a lot of it is like couched in that kind of like I drink a lot. I make bad decisions.
Yeah.
What a loser.
Yeah, there's no Andrew WK of Australian
Well, I
comedy.
don't think there's any Bert Kreischer either. Like someone
probably
who's just
Kyle
like, yeah, I
again.
fucking drink. Yeah, it's probably Kyle again.
I fucking smoke heaps of weed and I drink heaps. It's fucking
Yeah.
madness.
See, yeah, maybe pride isn't the right word, but like, you as a weed representative,
Yeah.
you're just a guy that smokes a ton of it, but doesn't really have anything that affects your personality or seems like you have much to say about it. Like, no matter how stupid it fucking is.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
Yeah. Like how many
I'm
pa-
also not here
how-
on
how
the
many-
pod talking about strains that I prefer. I have opinions on
Yeah,
where.
but would you rather listen to like a very boring, dry, like hardcore history of a guy talking about strains, or like a fucking guy being like, "Yeah, I smoke weed and fucking like shat in my pants"? Like,
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
For
Which-
the comedy person.
Yeah.
Is, to be fair, one of your stories.
So you're telling me that I have my shit too together to be the weed guy?
Oddly enough, what I'm saying is like your weed smoking is the one area that's not ridiculously
It's actually not.
outlandish.
It's not a big enough problem in my life.
Yeah, and like maybe that links back to like me confusing pride with defensiveness, is that you're embarrassed about it and you don't want to be seen as a constantly high guy. But if you don't want to be seen as a constantly high guy, you can't be the weed guy.
This is true.
That's
He's
true.
got you there, snookered.
I want to be
To bring
seen
back another joke
as
from the
someone who
previous.
is.
You want to be seen as a cool guy.
I know.
that.
Weed,
Yeah.
weed's
We
not
know
cool.
that.
I'm 30
That's-
years old. Weed is not cool.
Yeah, but by making
we
it
talk
legal,
about
you're
this in
hoping.
another
But by
episode?
making it legal, you're hoping that it does make it cool.
I'm
And
hoping.
like all of a sudden, you've got a higher tolerance. You know a little bit about strains. You're not a caricature like Kyle
Yeah.
Legacy. You're a cool guy that smokes weed and keeps it together. That's what you want to be.
Is that a bad thing to want to be? That sounds
No,
great.
that's absolutely not a bad thing to want to be. But that's something that you are personally.
Right, and that's not what they're going to be looking for. Is
It's
what you're
not
saying.
career.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Like, you want people to like you and be like, Hastings knows a lot about weed. I'd like to sit and have a cone with him.
I also just think that it's where this comes from is I watched an episode of Getting Dug with High and I was like, these guys are so stoned. This is so boring.
Yeah.
it's bad content because they're too high. I think it should be people who can smoke weed doing it.
But then it's just a podcast.
yeah,
Like,
that's true. But we could, I could get celebrities stoned.
But,
Give
like,
me a
there's-
TV show getting stoned with celebrities.
But like, and like the fact that it's been done,
Channel
like,
9, baby.
because like now you're kind of like saying you just want to do hot ones, but with weed.
Yeah, I do.
Where you
That is what I want.
are kind of had of a modicum of control, where you just get other people like bug nuts high,
Yeah.
and so you can still.
But
this
they've all-
comes back to. Still
Yeah, I don't
be
want-
seen as the relatively cool
Yeah,
guy
because-
who's mining
You're right.
humor out of this other fucking idiot.
We're describing the same thing from different perspectives because I don't see it as being cool. I see it as to be able to do the job, you have to be able to hold it together.
Yes, and I know you well enough to know that it's all about you being cool.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
yeah. That is literally every the motivation behind
It's
every
like
fucking action
see now
of yours.
now your weed show to me has
Yeah.
become crystal fucking clear.
Yeah.
Because it's you like taking on comics that you maybe are resentful of, don't like in a
No.
or don't like in a personal capacity.
I'm not
You
that bitter.
outsmoke them and kind of like ask them about questions and then run rings around them and just sit there and nod your head like a fucking asshole.
Just embarrass people.
Yeah, just-
That's the one thing I'm good at. Embarrass them.
Just,
by
uh,
getting
You know
them
what would
to,
happen
Do
is
you
in
know
the
the
third
music?
episode,
Do you know
someone.
the music of Rachmaninoff? They're just like, what? You're just like,
But do you know what would happen is in the third episode, he'd get someone on who he didn't realize could fucking outsmoke him, and they would
That episode would
fucking
never be
put him
released.
on the-
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I just don't release the
That's
episode.
true.
Yeah.
But everyone would know, and that would eat you up inside.
They wouldn't, because Hastings would go around telling everyone that they cut it because the guy wasn't funny enough.
Yeah, but the other person would go around telling everyone what actually happened.
I mean, who are you going to believe?
Yeah, you believe the guy with a successful show at this point. Like, I'd
Yeah,
be
dude.
inclined to
If the guy
believe
from Hot
Hastings.
Wings was like, Lil Uzi Vert was a pussy about it, so he didn't want us to
Yeah.
air it, I'd be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder how many they haven't aired. They probably have. Man, you are 2 inches away from falling backwards.
So they,
Um,
that's
And
your.
that's not a metaphor.
that is so.
But it is also.
That's so interesting to see. Like, that's the kind of weed guy you kind of want to be.
Yeah, well, I don't think because I'm not 15
But
anymore.
also, yeah, but it's also you're fucking justifying it in your head by being like, I don't want to be a baby's weed guy. I want to be the thinking man's
No,
weed
not that
guy.
at all. I just think we should do.
You know what?
I think
I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately.
I think that
Which is a weed guy.
the way weed's portrayed is so silly and outdated and goofy. And I think that maybe people who actually, can string together sentences maybe isn't, the worst thing in the world for that culture moving forward.
It's not, but what makes you think that you're that guy?
I mean, I'm talking right now.
Yeah, but
I'm articulating some pretty tight-ass arguments right
I don't
now.
know. I feel like Jamie's been running rings around you.
No, these arguments are watertight.
No, it's because like I do actually
Watertight or water pipe?
Oh.
I am agreeing with Hastings on a lot of levels. Like
Yeah.
we're talking about the same thing.
We are. You are right. We are
Wait,
talking about the same thing.
coming at
Yeah.
it from different ways. Mine's correct.
Yeah.
Like, but the interesting thing is that like in a way you are right. Like weed is a drug that like has medicinal benefits.
Weed's not a drug, man. It's a herb.
I mean, like
That's been like
I mean,
calling
like-
me up on saying that
Yeah,
like
and-
sincerely
and,
a bit
like,
lately.
You've been
I'm like,
banging
oh.
out the Bill Hicks albums
Not to
again lately,
her.
have you?
But just I like because sometimes she'll be like she'll be like, oh, you're on drugs. I'm like, I'm not on drugs. It's not like a drug.
yeah, and like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And like
Oh,
honestly,
no. I knew
honestly,
you'd become that guy.
Honestly, good for her.
yeah.
Like, that
yeah.
is the smart thing. to
Yeah,
do.
Oh,
she
she's
should be
not-
pulling you up on that.
she's not,
Sorry,
like,
I interrupted the
complaining
middle
about
of
it
you
per
making a
se.
cogent point.
Yeah, it's like I think that like weed does have like the medicinal benefit. It's not about like just giggling like an idiot
Absolutely.
and fucking eating pizza. So like maybe it does need that like
Yeah.
extra step. But then like at the same point, like weed very much is still a drug.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course.
It's like you don't do like the drunk show and be like, well, wouldn't the drunk show be more interesting instead of like everyone gets candid and lucid sloppy? People just sit there and are like, this isn't fucking affecting me at all. Like,
Yeah,
no one
yeah.
wants to
And
be,
also,
no one
so I
wants to
just
be
sit-
the 16-year-old football captain at a party.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
I've had
giving-
fucking 17 beers. I like not
Yeah.
not even affected.
giving Brooke Taylor 17 vodka cruises so she doesn't know where she is. Like,
Oh,
like
yucky.
no, it's also I guess you are right.
That has happened backstage in the comedy industry in the past, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Like,
Of
it's a
course,
comment.
yes.
I'm not saying that I'm that guy. It's like, you don't
no.
need to say yucky every time and assume that people are like, he's talking about himself. Like,
Yeah.
I would also like it to
Is
be
it
known
just
that I
if you-
was not
yeah.
saying that you were that guy.
yeah, is it? But the yucky thing is just like everyone knows it's gross. Like,
Yeah.
we know.
But yeah, what was it? So yeah, I see what you mean. It is also kind of the equivalent of getting like a sad old alcoholic with both a physical and psychological dependence to be like, this is the beer show. Like it's
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking nose red as
I
like
can't-
Rudolph.
just being like, yeah.
That fucking tomato on their face, just being like, man, I'd love to fucking feel something one day.
just there being like, yeah, if
Nothing
my
like
boss
that
ever
first
finds
hit
out
of
that I used to go into
Tooheys
work
in the
drunk.
morn.
It's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and the mailman comes and just serves him divorce
But
papers.
he,
for the
like,
fifth
he
time.
really struggles to get his shoes on.
His cardigan doesn't fit anyway. Fucking bitch left me.
That they actually kind of did that, like, but it was like a racial commentary with like when Eddie Murphy was on
Yeah,
Saturday
I
Night Live. It was
remember
like
that.
he got handed an eviction notice and stuff.
Yeah.
He answers the door by screaming, "Who is it?"
It is funny.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Is my weed use is too extreme and functional at the same time for
Well,
this to
like-
work.
Yeah, no one wants to like cares about the functional alcoholic.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
and like the destigmatization.
I appreciate you guys acknowledging that I'm functional though. That's
Yeah,
To a degree.
because the destigmatization will also eventually lead
Everything's
to it
relative.
being less funny. Like,
yeah.
like fuck.
Yeah.
My point was like, fucking. When did 40-Year-Old Virgin get released? 2006.
Was it 2005?
I think
wasn't it?
early. I
Yeah,
think,
something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, around then, mid 2000s.
15 years, right? Pretty revolutionary for people to just like smoke pot and
Yeah.
like riff.
Yeah,
If you release like that movie now, like fucking Pete Davidson essentially is releasing that
yeah,
movie
yeah.
now, and people are like, oh
Yeah,
my
man, he's probably fucking
God.
smoking a joint on stage in his Netflix special.
He's quit-
Maybe I don't
he's-
know. I haven't watched.
he's not. I've seen it. He's quit weed. But anyway,
Yeah,
you
but
are
like
right. You
that-
are right.
like-
How many times have I heard that?
Yeah, like I saw Pete Davidson do stand up at the Cell once. He fucking
Yeah,
ripped.
I liked his
He
stand-up
was so
special.
funny. But like, what I mean is like, you do that stuff, and like now that weed's been destigmatized, it's not necessarily as funny anymore.
Can you just give me a beer, Rose? Yeah, you are right. I don't necessarily mean Doug Benson. I might mean just the weed guy on Better Homes and Gardens. It doesn't necessarily have to be comedy. Like I could just be the guy. Like, you know, I could be like a weed sommelier. What are they fucking called?
Sommelier.
Sommelier.
Also, that already exists, and it's the host of Gardening Australia. You don't think fucking Costa is smoking hella weed?
If I
dude?
don't smoke a bong with Costa before I die.
He will immediately be. Did I ever say that? Is I ran into him at the Yubbin Festival on Invasion Day or whatever, and got to tell him.
Pupils like dinner plates.
But I got to tell, like, that's like the best moment ever. I got to tell him that I loved Gardening Australia and did a joke on fucking ABC about how good it was. And
did do
he
that.
was typically over the moon to hear it.
Of course.
Did he
Yeah.
ask you to do the bit?
No, but he was just like, oh, that's so great to hear, man.
Rose
Here's
handed Costa her business card with the YouTube link on it. Just manually typing it in one character at a time.
Who told you I had those?
He gave me one. Rose, I saw it.
They covered that.
Yeah,
The
I only
floor is covered in
yeah,
it.
I only gave you one because you were like, man, I need something to make a roach with. Because you're
Hell
a
yeah.
weed guy.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, so like, the point, I guess,
Hmm.
was really that like there are like 5 to 6 people I'd call weed guys ahead of you right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's see what the landscape
then,
is in 5 years' time.
But then there's also like another 10 guys that smoke weed and are functional like you.
That's true. That is
So
true.
then what do you fucking do with them too?
I mean, I'd just be funnier than them, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to win it on merit.
Yeah,
you
but
reckon
then,
you
like-
can?
But now, but also now you're talking about doing it from a non-comedy perspective. So being funnier than them's kind of out. Like
Look.
makes you more charming, maybe.
I got very blue eyes. Can we use that? Oh,
Yeah,
this is
sure.
a nice beer. Fuck yeah. Feral
It's your everyday beer.
Feral Brewing Company draft. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, we do ads on the pod now.
Plug. Hastings was like mid point about marijuana. I had a sip of his new
It's like,
beer.
this
and
is
was
better than weed.
Yeah.
You're doing that thing like where, like, never listen to it anymore. But back when, like, I listened to the occasional episodes, like Chris Jericho,
Oh,
like
yeah.
he tries to make it seem
Organic.
like, organic.
You can hear the edit point, but he makes it
Oh.
sound like we'll be
He's
like, all right,
and we'll just get back to talking about that in a second, John
Yeah.
Cena. But first, I need to talk to you about me undies. And it's like, dude, this is cringeworthy. Just stop for a second.
Chris Jericho's the sickest cunt. I'll defend that guy till I die. Anyway, what else is going on with everyone else? What else did we talk about? Oh yeah, we lost the recap episode. That was on the second. We're on take 4 right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well,
take 2, we tried to recap. But what else did we do before we started talking about Mighty Ducks the first time around?
Talked about Paramore very seriously.
Talked about Paramore for a long time with no jokes.
we talked about you two
I would
fighting.
call it engaging though.
Did I have a riff about? I had a good riff. I felt like
At this
being a
point, there is
weed
no
guy.
no hope trying to salvage it.
no.
Yeah, you don't bring
Oh yeah, it was the before shot.
dead riffs don't die.
We were talking about Jamie was talking about how he was
Oh,
taking
yeah.
progress pics of his fitness journey.
Yes.
And I was talking about how I take before shots of my dick when I get out of the pool when it's real small in the ocean pool, and then I send that as an accompaniment to my full size dick pics, just so they get a bit of perspective and scale.
Imagine,
Yes.
yeah, just two.
And my before and after pics are also just to show that my penis is shrinking and hopefully eventually into a vagina.
just some girls like, wow, so much smaller.
yeah.
Here's the thing.
It almost looks like a clit.
She's squint.
Here's the thing I've just been like thinking about the last couple of days is, you know how like for years my main shtick on stage was like being like a little sad boy and like talking about how like a big thing was I talk about how young my parents are. That's like been a recurring thing in my comedy because I got
You mean you've got a cool young
yeah,
mum?
yeah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I got because so if this is your first episode, my parents were super young when I was born, and I've explored that comedically to the nth degree, and I'll probably never talk about it again. But I was thinking about this the other day.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I've never
Never
thought
seen
about
it, but-
I've never thought about it from like the opposite perspective of like they're just like kind of like upwardly mobile, you know, late 40s, middle-aged people with like young families doing quite well who just have like a burnout 30-year-old son. Like, do they just have to explain? Like,
But also, like, if you did have kids when
like
you
they're
were...
quite successful. My parents are quite successful in their own fields. Like,
If you
you're
did
like
have kid-
grandma's boy.
Yeah.
If you did have kids when you were young, I feel like it goes either two ways. Either they're weird, you have one of those weird Gilmore Girls, they're your best friend relationship,
Yeah.
where there's some form of
Yeah.
sexual tension
Or
there.
they start a
or they get
podcast.
you.
Yeah.
I just realized you're the protagonist in a Happy Madison movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, we started writing one, remember?
Yeah. But like
It was loosely based on my relationship with my mother.
oh yeah, that makes so much more sense now. It is so funny.
But yeah, like I was thinking like the other day, like, you know, they'd have to be like, oh yeah, I saw my son on the weekend, you know, he's doing good, but I had to pay for his chlamydia medication. I'd be like, oh, you're 16-year-old? They'd be like, no, the 30-year-old. Like,
Are you running bits on me?
a little bit.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come
Oh,
on,
fuck
man.
off.
Well, but also, don't break my fucking chair.
Well, there's normally a wall behind me. I'm used to it.
Normally I'm cool. Take my chair back.
I'm kind of like the bad boy at this classroom I'm in podcast.
I smoke weed. It does nothing to me. Ladies.
I'm bum puffing bongs my whole life.
Yeah.
You've
Oh, you
never
would.
inhaled.
You would too.
Yeah, just bum puffing all that shit. I'm just like, this isn't doing anything. It just smells good.
Oh man, yeah, Happy Madison. Oh, are you guys gonna watch the new David Spade, Lauren Lapkus joint?
Probably. I like Lauren Lapkus.
I'm curious to watch it because I like Lauren Lapkus and I like David Spade, I guess. But like, it doesn't, like, nothing I've seen from it looks appealing at all.
It looks like a tremendous piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'll probably still watch it, but it has been interesting because like Lauren Lapkus, alt comedy superstar, like come from like Comedy Bang Bang, like that group of like comedy royalty. So Twitter has been a very divisive place of like a lot of those people and peripheral people being like, this new David Spade movie fucking rules. And
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah, yeah.
you're only saying that because your friend is in it. Like,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd be like on Comedy Bang Bang being like, I'm a character from the David Spade movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's just
Spade
so
rules. I love
like,
David
it's
Spade.
interesting to see like people like being like, oh, my Queen Lauren finally got the movie she deserved. A Netflix joined with David fucking Spade. Whereas
Yeah.
like some normal person is like, oh, this isn't very funny.
I mean, like, that happens within our industry now. People big up like average things that their friends are in because their friends are in because
Yeah,
you
you
don't want
gotta.
to be you don't want to be seen to be being silent about it.
Yeah, I was doing that to you guys before we hit record.
Wait?
About what?
I don't want to say what it is about.
Oh right, yeah. I was gonna say, what content do we have out?
No, it wasn't you guys.
Nothing.
I was doing it about a friend
Yes,
of
I
ours.
know. You didn't
Oh,
have
I
to say
remember.
that.
Yeah. Anyway,
How long have we been going for this time?
20 minutes.
That was about when we started talking about the movie last time. Do we have another crack?
Oh yeah, there was also a good riff about
Wanting to fuck Margaret Moore.
No, that was when we started
when
talking
me and
about the
Jamie
movie.
are fight kissing. There's a bit where he grabs my dick and it's clearly fully erect, and I'm like, I'm only half hard. That's pretty funny, Heather.
that is
I'm only half hard, Jamie.
Let's explore the pedophile Margaret Moreau stuff some more.
Yeah,
we have to
can do
get
that.
into this.
All right, go ahead. Rose.
Okay, take 4, even though we didn't get up to this 2 of those times. Welcome to We'll Just Tell Your Mother. Oh, no, don't pull the cord out. Welcome to We'll Just Tell Your Mother. We added all podcasts about teen sex comedies and things thereabouts and things very much not thereabouts because it's week 2 of Movies for Babies month. So this week we are doing...
Wah.
This week we're doing The Mighty Ducks. It's a 1992 American sports comedy drama film about a youth league hockey team directed by Stephen Herrick and starring Emilio Estevez. It was the first film in the Mighty Ducks film series. In some countries, the film was released with the title Champions, that included Australia, while home release copies were printed with the title As the Mighty Ducks Are the Champions to avoid confusion with the title of the sequel, which was D to The Mighty Ducks. Hello, I'm Rose Piper. You are...
Jamie.
and you are...
Australia's favorite weed guy, Andrew Hastings.
Yeah, beautiful.
Andrew Legacy Hastings.
Yeah.
Man, I love Kyle.
Yeah, he was. And he would be a great weed guy, to be honest.
Rose, Mighty Ducks, your favorite movie?
No.
All right.
I said this before. Is like
You're a baby and you like baby movies.
Baby
not what I
movies-
said.
And baby movies the only thing that give you comfort in this adult time.
Yeah, it's a very adult time we're in.
Yeah, the time's too adult.
I'm
Can we just not?
I'm so sick of adulting in COVID-19. I'd rather it was COVID-17.
Just give me COVID-19, baby.
Oh, baby. I'll tell you what, it's been COVID-19 in this place.
Oh.
Yeah, things have gotten pretty wild in my apartment. It's been more like COVID-Weinstein.
Oh, no. Oh,
Just
no.
the implications of that are so fun.
Oh, no.
I want to be clear, I'm the victim in that riff.
Yeah.
It's
No.
less promo if I'm the
Your
victim.
wife is Weinstein.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, it's me. I live in an apartment with Harvey Weinstein and my wife.
I smell sitcom.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Yes. I was saying before is that the only way you could really get any enjoyment out of these, I think, is if you had some sort of nostalgic reverence from these because you watched them when you were a kid, which I did. But even having said that, I watched all 3 of the franchise this week because it's Movies for Babies month.
Yeah.
Both on
And
and
you
off.
couldn't wait till next year.
Both on and off pod.
Yeah, are we doing Mighty Ducks 2 next week?
No, I'll do it next
Or
year.
are we doing another Babies movie?
Do a different Babies movie.
Okay.
Or if Rose's already watched it, we can keep going.
Maybe we need to do Rugrat. The
I
Rugrat.
kind of want to. 'Cause I
I've
know
never
the
seen
Rugrats movie like real well. As
Oh,
well.
I
It was
didn't
one of my
really like
it was one of my
Rugrats.
brothers watched a million times.
Well, there's
so
an
I've seen it a lot.
interesting thing that I was thinking because there's a lot of movies for babies on Disney Plus
Oh,
where
I've
we
got
watch
one.
this. There's that Heavyweights movie that I was talking about on the pod the other week, which is
Rocky?
written by the same guy who wrote this and co-written by Judd Apatow.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Heavyweights.
It stars
What's
Paul.
that?
It's got Ben Stiller in it. It's Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira in it. Briefly,
Have we done our official RIP? To
the
Jerry
the
Stiller?
unlikable fat kid from this is the protagonist in it.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah. Keenan Thompson is in it.
Let's
The guy who
end-
plays Goldberg is in it as well.
Let's end Baby Month by doing fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, well, because I
That's
also
not-
didn't
But
grow
the
up with-
first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is not a babies one.
Yeah, it's not, but it's like still Turtles are for babies.
Also, it is.
But
It's
it's-
also a segue back into teens.
It's quite gritty,
Yeah.
isn't it? Or are we
Teenage-
thinking of the modern era or the old one?
No, the old one. Like, it is gritty, but like, I think if you go back, like, there's still enough.
It gets
like,
more babyish
Yeah.
the
Babies.
further through you go.
I'm not going to be confronted by the themes in episode 1, even if it is the most
yeah,
adult.
the
This is
leitmotif.
This is true.
It is about 4 turtles who eat pizza and a party dudes.
Yeah. Can
And
we
it's on
do?
Amazon
Well, can we
Prime.
do a franchise that's a beloved franchise from my childhood?
Power Rangers.
Well, we can do that, but just like if we're doing all these, none of them are like ones that I grew
Can't
up
do
with.
Dora the Explorer.
We can do Detective
Hastings.
Pikachu.
Oh yeah.
We could do.
But that's new. Oh yeah, but that is. Still
we could also just do like the first Pokemon movie.
I've never seen it.
That movie stinks.
It's good. Oh, dude, the 3D remake's actually tight. Let's do that.
Is it
Let's have
actually
this-
It's
tight?
shot for shot remake. It's
Let's
sick.
say
Shot for shot.
They
remake.
did. They did a 3D shot for shot remake of Mewtwo Strikes Back.
Okay,
Let-
well that
let's-
is for babe.
let's save this discussion for off pod.
All right.
So
Text in if you got an
yeah.
opinion.
So what I was saying is that like any enjoyment I could have from this is because I watched it when I was a kid. But having watched them all now, they are movies for babies. They suck. Like you could watch like Toy Story and stuff like that and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. There's stuff there for adults, but there's really not stuff there for adults in these.
Really? That's a bit. That's a little cold-hearted.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I
Rose.
actually,
I thought you'd be Raylan. Yeah.
I also actually disagree.
I kind of disagree too.
But I also said before that, like, having watched all 3, the only one that I really enjoyed, which I think, now that I think of it, was probably the only one I, like, properly enjoyed when I was a kid, is the second one.
Okay.
There is a little something for adults, and it's Margaret. No, I'm not.
No. So in the
Daddy.
episode that we lost, Jamie was really skirting the kind of grooming.
He was actually fine.
By like Mighty Ducks 3, I'd assume she's an adult, and
I don't think that they were fully 18 by that point.
really, because Eldon Henson seems
Jamie,
like he's 18 already. in,
Not
like, the
looking
first
it up
one.
is not plausible deniability.
Fuck. All right, you better get me a lawyer. No, I think
Like, they're pretty young in this.
I don't know because like Eldon Henson's his voice is already broken and shit. Like and like
They'd all just be
Joshua
different ages.
Jackson would only be like 8 years off Dawson's Creek.
Jamie, do you want to give it? I think we still haven't all given our takes on the film.
Oh yeah,
James,
sure.
we got roses.
Because in the second movie, you can hear like quite a few of them's voices are breaking.
I reckon they were.
So, like, they're
I
still-
reckon they were 17 to 18 by time number 3.
Maybe it probably depends on the actor.
Yeah, that's how time works.
But like, yeah, like the filming of the second one, like you can hear their voices are cracking.
yeah, I feel like this makes me out to be more villainous because I wasn't saying that I want to fuck Margaret Moreau in this movie. I was saying that if you were on set as one of those boys, her
Jamie
being-
issues statement on controversial riff.
if you
Oh,
were
dear.
one of the boys in filming that movie and she was one of the only 2 girls on the team, I think you'd have a crush on her.
Yes, they
Is
would
that
have.
Uh,
so wrong?
Jamie Kirk clarifies riff once again.
Come take a seat. I've been watching old clips of To Catch a Predator.
Oh yeah.
It's very fun.
Well, because Chris Hansen's. Did you hear about Chris Hansen and the Blood on the Dance Floor guy?
No?
Apparently, fuck, who was it? Someone was working with Chris Hansen to do a thing on the Blood on the Dance Floor guy.
Oh, damn, that would have been great.
Yeah, it's not happened yet, but like it might be happening. There might be some sort
cool.
of special coming out. I had never seen this movie before.
Neither.
Ever. And I was particularly, we got into an argument on the one we lost. So I'll tell you what, let's try it another angle this time. So before I watched this movie,
There was much confusion.
I think, and here's my argument, rightfully so. Right? I think it's a very confusing franchise. So
Jamie, rightfully so.
I think it's silly.
can someone explain? Okay, right. Let's rather than me trying to explain what's happening, can someone explain to me the different properties within this franchise?
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
So this was the first thing that came out,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
It was a big success.
Yeah.
So after that, there was an actual hockey team in Anaheim, I believe, in
Yeah.
California.
Which is where Disneyland or World is, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
where like all the theme parks are, I think.
Yeah.
But they called them the Mighty Ducks.
I'm
of
on board
Anaheim.
so far. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So the branding
Mm-hmm.
became quite strong. So there was a sequel.
Visual,
and
like as in just the name, or is this when the logo came into it?
Logo.
the logo.
Okay. And the brand was just generally strong because of those 2 factors.
Yes, but I don't know if the logo in the second movie came from the hockey team or whatever. Maybe it did.
There's
I don't
3
know.
places it could have come.
Yeah. But from there, the Mighty Ducks branding became a thing. So after the movies, they made a children's animated TV series, which is a hockey team, but they are adult anthropomorphic ducks
Okay.
With weapons.
with weapons.
And this exists in a separate parallel universe to the Mighty Ducks film
I
franchise.
think it's like literally an alternate universe.
But they use the same
It's just the same name. That's
and
it.
the same
That's
logo,
it.
and they
Yes.
play the same sport.
That's it. That's it. That's where it ends. That's where like any similarities
Right.
end. To stop
And this doesn't
confusing
seem
yourself.
strange. Like, no, that's fine. I
Does that
understand
not
it now.
seem like something that they would do for kids?
sort of?
I guess it depends on your ability to buy if there is other life. on
It's
the
like to sell
universe.
toys and shit.
It's like
You're more likely to buy a toy of like a
Oh,
ducky
I
hockey
understand
play
why
thing than a
cartoons
kid.
are made. I guess I could. It would make more sense to me if the cartoon was based on the sports team rather than the movie. But it seems unclear what. So
It's not based on either.
No, I understand what it is now. It's been explained to me now, but it's
Yeah,
confusing
like
and there doesn't line up.
so many
No,
times.
It's not that I don't understand what it is. I'm understanding more. I'm now trying to understand why and what are they trying to achieve in the sense of like why.
We've gone over that.
No. Like, okay, then why hasn't every other movie done this? Why is there no?
Because maybe it didn't work.
Why was there no Remember the Titans cartoon?
and they're all like badass.
They're all ancient Greek.
rhinoceros.
They're ancient Greek Titans.
Remember the Titans deals with some bigger themes at work, like race and stuff. That would feel
Both
weird to
Disney
make a cartoon.
sports movies.
I get your point.
Yeah, like it's weird that what the fuck is that show? Like,
I can take a
It,
stab.
it would have been their own version of doing like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Street Sharks or some shit like
yeah,
that. You know,
but it also is Disney, where it's not like Disney were new to the cartoon market. It's they kind of created it. Like it's an odd choice.
Yeah, I could take a stab. It's like Remember the Titans and Mighty Ducks are, even though they're Disney movies, probably gunning for two very
Different-
slightly different age
Mighty
groups.
Ducks is younger.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mighty Ducks is younger,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about an era when Mighty Ducks has probably, against all odds, low budget, become a pretty big financial success.
Yeah.
Like, as a big family movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
the
like,
second one is like much bigger budget.
and so you
You
want
can tell.
to extend the franchise. What's hot, baby? I hear
Cartoons.
those turtles are fucking
Right,
in.
so it's
Yeah.
Disney's. Because I think you might. That actually does make sense to me. So because there was that period of time where everyone was ripping off the turtles, Street
Yeah.
Sharks, Sparkle Master Mars,
Mars.
Dragonflies.
Did I not just say that, basically?
No. Yeah, you did. But more that the idea of like Disney were looking for a property to turn into
Yeah.
their place in that
you
existing
got the
market.
logo.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a strong logo, but it's still.
I've got like a little kid's jersey that I bought from an op shop with that on it in
All
my
right.
cupboard somewhere.
What I find, it's not that I'm getting confused by it. I just think it's insane to make a cartoon about anthropomorphic ducks based on a children's movie about humans.
Yeah, but
They're only called ducks because the guy's name is Duckington. That's why they're called the Duckworth. They're called the Mighty
Ducksworth,
Ducks
sorry.
because they're Ducksworth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a good enough reason for several steps later that it'd be a giant fucking duck with a hockey stick being like, I'm a mighty duck. Get it?
How many kids do you think are going down this logic hole?
Well, not me because I didn't fucking watch the franchise, and maybe this is why.
Exactly, that's the point. Kids don't give a shit.
I'll put it another way to you. Right?
Please,
You're Andrew Hastings.
I'm listening.
Oh god.
This is how you get him. The only
I know that you are more practiced in this than I.
You start any theoretical with your Andrew
Yeah.
Hastings, and I'm like, I'm on board.
this
I'm listening.
this is the only way he'll learn. this is how you get Andrew. You're Andrew Hastings.
Yeah.
Internationally successful comedian.
Go on.
This is the second one.
Yeah.
This is point take.
Yeah.
So you're making a ton of money,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
You're making it. Yeah.
Fuck, I hate you so much.
This is making me like you more. And I already like the ceiling.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
There is no ceiling on the blast hole.
Yeah, that's true.
So it just goes to infinity.
Just poke through the top. Yeah, you're Andrew Hastings, internationally successful comedian. You're kind of like, Eddie Murphy.
All right.
I love that you went for a black guy.
Shut up, Rose. I'm listening.
A black guy who secretly loves
Oh,
trannies.
my Lord. Not again.
I can say it. You
Yeah, I
can't.
think you're kind of like Eddie Murphy because like you've kind and so like people are like, so you're in talks, right? You're Andrew Hastings. You're selling out stadiums.
Yeah, I've always got meetings.
Yeah, okay.
I'm taking a lot of meetings. That's what you're talking about. I'm taking a lot of
Yeah.
meetings.
Let's not you run with the fantasy. You just change it and you're just like booking. You just
Yeah.
change the story to you booking a year's worth of gigs.
Of me booking a years of comedians who've wronged me onto my weed show
Yeah.
so I can make them all green out.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, well, let's backpedal and say
Yeah.
that you're hugely successful
With my
your
weed YouTube channel.
with your weed show, and people are like, man, that Andrew Hastings, he's fucking like he's a funny guy. Like this weed thing is obviously now weed is completely legal. Obviously, it's not funny to be a weed guy. It's more funny to just be completely straight and passively aggressively take swipes at other people. That's the new weed culture. But like, he's making a ton of money, but we want him to be Andrew Hastings. This is the third thing that'll get him. We want him to be Andrew Hastings, the comedian, becoming Andrew Hastings, the brand.
Yvette, cancel my lunch.
It's like, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt the fantasy for a second because there's three things to get Hastings on board with
Yeah.
any hypothetical.
Yeah.
It's that he's a big comedian, he's
Yeah.
more successul than people he doesn't like, and then it's he has to be a brand.
Yeah.
I want to be a brand so
Yeah,
bad.
like,
Oh, I know.
it's
You've made
like-
that patently clear over
comedy-
many, many years.
Comment. You know how like so many like people criticize people and be like, oh, they fucking like they wouldn't even do comedy because they like if you gave them a play or something, they'd rather be an actor. If you gave them a movie, they'd rather be an actor. Or they'd rather you'd rather be like a toy line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would kill to be a toy line.
Yeah. So here's what I'm saying. This is where it links back to Mighty Ducks, right?
Yeah.
And your confusion. So you're Andrew Hastings. You're famous for your weed show.
Great.
And people are like, we want Andrew Hastings to become Andrew Hastings the brand. Of course, Andrew Hastings the brand cannot exist just to adults. We have to branch out and make Andrew Hastings the
Accessible
family.
to at least teens.
Andrew Hastings the family friendly.
Talking about giving Andrew Hastings access to teens.
Oh, no.
We're not talking
a
about.
rough
No.
episode. It's a rough one today, isn't it?
We're not talking about
That's
that.
what I'm trying to say
you can
no
refer.
on.
You can refer to my lawyer here.
Yeah.
He'll he's Jewish, so he'll be
I like
Good
that.
at that. Yeah, he's part of your team, baby.
You normally don't.
Yeah, so please refrain from your weed comments at him. Anyway, so we want to make Andrew Hastings like the family-friendly brand. We don't necessarily want you to star in like a kid's vehicle like the Nutty Professor. What we want to do is take Butt Baby and make it a children's
Make it an action
animated
figure.
show
Yeah.
where the Butt Babies are from maybe like another dimension.
Yeah.
And
They're
they're
the
like
Teenage Mutant Ninja
they're basically
Turtles.
like orphans from the planet Buttutron. And they're fighting the evil gastronomist. And to do so, they all have
the funniest butt babies ever been.
They all have like weapons of like sight and
of
like
ass destruction.
yeah, weapon. Yeah, but you can't say that because it's for kids. So it's
fuck.
like, yeah, like if you wanted to do a little something for, like for the
A little
adults-
something for daddy.
Well, if you wanted to do it, like you could say like butt stuff in there and like
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But you're essentially you're turning Andrew Hastings Butt Babies into Andrew Hastings the spin-off Butt Babies, and so to a lot of people,
Their
they're gonna
headquarters would be called like something that it would turn out as an acronym.
yeah.
Fart
So then
or
20
something.
years later, 3 losers. 4 of them, like 2 of them are trans, 1 of them cis, which is outlawed now. And doing a podcast
My time to
about,
shine,
and doing
baby.
a podcast about famous comedian Andrew Hastings and being like, well, Andrew Hastings is obviously the most famous, funniest comedian I've ever seen in the world. He's less of a
Truly is a fantasy.
he's less of a comedian and more of a brand.
He
What-
just gets so much work.
yeah, he gets so much work. He's kind of a brand. Like I'm drinking my Andrew Hastings Pepsi.
What
at
I
the
really
moment.
like about being a fan of the brand of Andrew Hastings is that you can really tell that his peers and enemies respect him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really obvious when through his content how much of his peers and
Each-
enemies respect him.
Each Andrew Hastings Pepsi I pick up has a picture of another comedian that has wronged him saying sorry. But so,
Drinking the Kyle Legacy Lager,
saying sorry.
so yeah.
the Pat Doherty Pale
Yeah,
Ale.
so to bring it all full circle.
Because he pales in comparison.
Yeah.
There's a podcast, there's 2 trans people,
Yeah.
and 1 cis person. The cis person's outlawed, so it's technically in an underground bunker. It's kind of like pirate radio. And they're like, I understand
Right.
Hastings is the funniest, most successful comedian around. He's more of a brand. What I don't understand is why there's a fucking animated series called Butt Babies
Yeah.
when there was never such a thing as a butt baby.
yeah.
And that's Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
It's because Daddy needed to get paid. It's 'cause-
Yes.
There you go. You
Yes,
get
so
it. You
you
get
understand.
it.
yeah.
Fucking old Walt needed to submit a cha-ching.
Just because I would do it doesn't mean it's creatively the right decision. If I've proved anything in my 9 years of doing comedy, just because I've done something does not make it creatively
this
If
correct.
anything, you having done it makes it immediately.
But yes,
the
I would of
incorrect
course take the
creative
dump truck
decision.
of money.
And also in this situation, it does.
I'm not saying that it's immoral. I'm just confused. It's an odd choice.
Now that we've gotten to the bottom of that,
Can I give my
should-
take on the movie?
I was going to say, should we actually talk about the movie instead of the animated
Yeah.
TV series?
So here's my thing. I'd never seen it, so I was so unengaged with this. I have no nostalgia for this at all either. That's the I
Yes.
didn't even see the. I thought it was a fucking cartoon up until 2 years ago. I wasn't even the imagery wasn't even.
Don't say
familiar to me.
cartoon because we're just going to end
Yeah.
up in a whole different place again.
But it's. I thought as a kids movie, it it had a few flaws and it was of its time. A lot of things I think they did quite well. I was honestly kind of surprised. I thought typically in kids movies, so like it's obviously a kids version of a sports movie is what we're dealing with, right?
Yes.
That's the genre. It's the structure of a sports movie, but it's a kids movie. Problem that sports movies have generally, like forgetting even that they're kids movies, but it stands to reason kids movie would stuff from it more, is that team is made up of, sometimes up to 20 people, 15 people, 12 people, whatever it is, plus coaching staff, whatever. You got a lot of characters in there, but a 90-minute Hollywood film only really has space for like 6 characters. You know what I mean? Like, so other characters fall on the wayside. You've got a lot of sports movies, they invest time in giving the other teammates pretty like recognizable gimmicks, so it seems like they're in it more than they are. This movie did a really good job of actually making it feel like a team. I know who's in that team. I know the personalities of in that team. They actually spent time and invested on all of the kids' characters. Because I guess watching it, I kind of forgot at the start. I forgot that the movie was going to ultimately be about children mostly. But it does a good job of transplanting a sports movie into the kids genre, and I was very particularly surprised by how well it fleshed out all those characters.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. Not my thing. I think the other thing as well is I kind of went into it dreading it. I was kind of enjoying it by the end because, again, it's a sports movie. I like sports movies. The hockey scenes are great. I really enjoy watching them play hockey. Like, it's funny and goofy and kiddie and unrealistic.
I reckon this is why next week we should do the second one. The third one I think we can avoid, but like the second one, I think anything that you liked about this, you'll like more about the second one.
Okay.
I think it's what Hastings said.
Yeah.
It comes down to the fact that, like, is there any movie formula
Yeah.
that's more of a slam dunk than the sports
Absolutely.
movie?
It's the easiest movie formula to ride.
The underdog.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't belong in this game. You're too crazy, Happy Gilmore.
yeah.
Come on, guy from Dodgeball.
Like, I think you have to have a real fucking sports ball thing going on to, like, hate sports movies.
Yeah.
And even then, like, some of them are still, you'd still consider good, I think.
Yeah. Well, I like people sometimes assume I don't. I like sport.
Yeah.
Like, I actually quite like sport
Yeah.
and sports movies and stuff.
Sports are the ultimate formula movies because you can't help,
Yeah.
like, unless you just put, like, the most unlikable pricks, you can't
Well-
help but root for a team. Like,
You could argue that, the thing sports movies do well because the stakes are low from a villain perspective. They often do obnoxious, cunty villains really well because there's so much room to play with them. Like, they just have to be, you just make them unlikable as possible without being evil, and you can go, like, villains in sports movies are usually like more annoying than they are evil.
Yeah.
Particularly the opposition. If there's like it's like something like Varsity Blues or it's the coach, that's different.
yeah, this one's much more insidious because the bad coach definitely seems like a child molester.
He's
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure hitting those kids with his dick.
like,
But also, like
the whole movie hinges on the fact, like, the coach abused Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
but like not
And gave him-
sexually abused. Like
He gave him-
emotionally
No,
abused
but
him.
it's like under the hood.
The-
you
You
know what I
reckon?
mean?
The kid has complex PTSD. Like, Emilio Estevez is so fucked. His dad died the same week.
Yeah.
This movie's also all about, like, every movie's about dads. 'Cause
even
men
maybe
make
not a
movies,
pedophile,
but-
like he abuses children, like,
Yeah.
physically.
But
Like,
yeah, probably.
You guys got that it's a movie about dads, right? The whole movie's about father figures and dads. Like, that's the big running theme through everything. You
Well,
guys-
yeah,
yeah,
Charlie wants
I know
one.
you miss
Alright.
your dad, dude.
No. It's complicated.
I wrote in my notes, like, Hastings would fucking love.
But the
like,
idea that-
Emilio Estevez.
But like the
Yeah.
idea, like, even I would say, as a big daddy's boy, like daddy's issues boy, I would say that having the main character's dad die the same week that he messes up the shot that his like surrogate father figure told him he had to take, which will make him feel like a failure for the next like 3 decades. I'm like, that's a bit much. Like, that's a bit heavy-handed. On the dad stuff, and then that guy has to be the surrogate dad and the stepdad to the guy who was like the surrogate him on the new team, who then has an identical shot. Like, it's like, I think it's so heavy because 6-year-olds are supposed to be going. It's actually about their dads. Like, even
Yeah.
6-year-olds are supposed to get the subtext.
You know what I found odd was the choice of the kid actor to play Emilio Estevez when he was young. Who,
Yeah,
like,
it looks nothing like him.
well, one looks nothing like him, but like, two, like in the scene where he's like taking the shot, he just couldn't have like a more blank expression on his face.
Children can't act.
when he's supposed to look like extremely distressed by the situation, but also
his
in the
dad's
scene-
dead.
But in the scene where he is skating with his dad, like he's smiling and he looks like the fucking Joker.
Yeah.
Like, it was so like wide-eyed, it creeped me out.
All right,
There
stunt
are-
If you're
casting.
that kid and you're listening, I don't like it.
There are several moments. Okay, trying not to dig myself a hole. There are.
No,
there are
you've dug plenty
The
already.
the baby Emilio Estevez was fuckable. Okay.
No, there are. I was gonna say,
No.
there are several moments where, like, Margaret Moreau
Oh, why again?
looks so hot. No, she's like clearly not the focal point of the scene, so you're not supposed to be focusing on her. But something about her is maybe a little enchanting.
Yeah, sure.
But, like,
Taller than all of them.
no, I'm saying that's a joke. I'm
Yeah.
not a pedophile.
Yeah.
But like, there are several moments where like she's just smiling, clearly having the time of her life, being on a movie where you're like, oh, you should like this isn't a smiling moment in the movie. Like she's just back there being like, yeah.
Yeah.
My
And like
first movie.
a couple of other kids do that as well. Points where you're like,
Yeah,
hey,
they
you're
just stop
supposed to-
acting.
Yeah, and you're just like, yeah, we get it. You're fucking in like a big sports goods
Yeah.
store now. This rules for you.
Yeah.
This could be a fun game.
All right.
Maybe.
Which child would you want to find?
Yeah. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, Margaret Moreau?
Oh my god.
No. A few of the people in the team do not return for the sequel.
Yeah.
Who do you reckon they dispensed with?
So is the Oreo line a racial thing? Because if so, the 2 black kids.
One of the black kids.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the...
Is the Oreo line a race thing though? I actually couldn't tell. I was smoking weed.
No, I don't think
Because it was
so.
like that move was done by 2 black guys and a white guy. I was like, is the idea that there's 2 black
maybe
guys
it
on the
is.
side of the white guy and it's like an Oreo?
The
thing?
flying V thing that they do has the black kid at the front.
Yeah, but he references the Oreo line before that a few times.
Right.
And I don't
also,
know what that
that's
means.
the most fantastical thing about. Forget your fucking animated thing. The
Yeah.
most crazy thing about all of this is that there is more than one black person playing hockey in Minnesota.
That's actually, you're dead on that.
That's wild.
That's
absolutely
crazy.
wild.
It's so funny that like hockey is such a caveat to any racial stat about sport in the US.
I mean,
'Cause
I-
it's like,
like-
it's evolved like it's a lot of sociological stuff about it or whatever about like the race dynamics of sport. It's like, and every time it's like, except hockey.
I know I was in Dallas, but like I went to a hockey game in Dallas, and like not a one black person in the entire arena.
yeah. That well, it's also because it's typically like Midwest and Northern.
It's all
right?
fucking Slavs, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
I
And
love it.
Canucks.
I love Slavs.
Yeah.
Anyway, who else doesn't return?
There's
a
few. Kid who was already too old to be in it.
Alden Henson.
Yeah.
The guy with the slap shot. No, I'm going to say he returns.
He
'cause-
very much returns.
Because
He's very
him-
important.
Is there a
Him-
scene where he's like, "Hey kids, I got pubes"?
No, because him and Joshua Jackson's friendship.
Oh,
seems
honestly,
kind
the
of
first appearance of him isn't far from that.
Nice.
fucked. Him and Joshua Jackson's like friendship seems like the crux of the movies going forward.
They're in all three, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
gonna
their
say-
friendship is a big part of the third
I'm
one.
going to say Margaret Moreau's in at least one of them, if not both.
I think she's in all of them. Yeah, who didn't return? Come on,
Jussie Smollett, maybe.
Who annoyed
What?
you?
He's in
Is
it.
he in it? Is that
Yeah.
actually him? I didn't realize that was him. That's hilarious.
It's on the Black Kids.
Which,
Maybe we can explore this.
who's Jussie
Is it a little
Smollett?
too spicy for us? Or?
Who's Jussie Smollett again?
Jamie, do you want to do the honors?
He's the guy. He's like a gay black actor who said he got beat up by 2 guys wearing.
he did get beat up. He just faked it.
But he said he got
Oh,
beat up
hang
by
on,
2
yeah,
guys
yeah.
in MAGA hats saying this is MAGA
Yeah,
country.
when it was
Yes.
just 2
and then
friends.
it was 2 people he paid to do it.
Yes, I recall. He is the black kid who doesn't return.
Too busy.
Just
Go
bail.
for it.
What's the
Just
problem?
go-
Just bail.
Just go for it.
I don't know. I was just going. That's something about setting the civil rights movement back. I don't know.
I'm not getting any more guesses here.
I don't even know the names of the
I
characters.
don't. I reckon one thing that it's a complete guess, but I would be curious to see how they dealt with it. Is that Emilio Estevez's love interest, which is Joshua Jackson's mom,
Yeah.
will not be back in the sequels, but like the whole thing was kind of like a happy families thing.
Yeah,
and they'll
yeah,
have
yeah.
to reconcile a way where Joshua
She's
Jackson
on a business trip.
still loves Emilio Estevez like a father, but isn't angry that he fucked his mom and bailed.
Absolutely, she is not present in the second film. It is not referenced in any way, shape, or form.
Fuck yeah.
So I wonder
Purely a hockey relationship.
So, like at some point, Charlie
They
like
never
has-
have a real conversation.
Also, the second film is supposedly a year later.
So Charlie's like never got mad and be like, man, yeah, I can't believe you fucked my mom. dude."
Yeah.
Like
He
Sorry, I just have to
still
quickly
loves him.
text my
especially because like it has a very creepy moment, like, and this is Joshua Jackson, like he fucking like elbows Emilio Estevez and he's like, go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, did you ever do that, Hastings, when you were trying to get your mom like railed out? Just like,
That's a
just
good
like,
question. So,
Go for it, dude.
I'm very lucky with the separated parents thing because my parents separated before I was born. And so, before my mum and dad I think this is right. I'm not fully clear on it. My mum and stepdad, I think, were dating before my mum and dad were dating. And then my dad was kind of like a, hey, fuck you to my mum's recent ex-boyfriend, my current stepdad. I was born a bit later. So I've known my stepdad as long as I've been alive. I've seen someone try to hit on my mum one time in my life. It was at my cousin's 21st.
You obviously weren't looking around at the wedding.
Oh, no. And because I always thought the like your mum or I fucked your mum thing was like pretty dumb. Like I never really engaged with like that kind of like
Yeah, that's probably
Oedipal,
because I fucked your mum.
Oedipal sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like I never genuinely felt like jealous or weird about
Yeah,
my
I
mum.
fucked your nan.
I saw this drunk guy who was
Fucked
like
your dad.
some distant relative of mine on my dad's side, so not related to my mum. Like, just get like, not even just to get a bit too friendly with my mum, and he was quite drunk, and I could tell my mum was like a bit uncomfortable. I would have been like 23, 24 when this happened. I've never been angrier in my life. I wanted to do like physical harm to this man. I was like in the car with my mum 20 minutes later, being like, "What the fuck was that guy's problem? I'll fucking kill him." Like, and she was like, "It's fine."
She's
I was
like, sure. mate.
she was just like, "Yeah, I told him to piss off, and he did. Like, it's fine." Like,
Okay, other people who
It's like,
didn't.
what are you going to do to him? One of your little skits, Andrew? Grow up. Get a job. You're 29.
Other people who don't return included Dave Karp, who was the little fat kid, like the little fat kid, with
oh yeah.
Not the goalie?
not the goalie. He is definitely back. A very important character. We'll
Yeah,
talk-
that guy grew up to be Gabriel Iglesias.
No, I'll talk to you about what he grew up to be in a sec. And the little like Italian-looking kid, Peter, who was wearing like,
He's the one of the first to revolt against
Yeah.
the coach, right?
And
he's
the-
like, hey, you fucking get
Yeah.
some gabagool.
and the two figure skating kids don't return because they're replaced by a much better figure skating person in the next one. But Sean Weiss, who plays Goldberg,
The goalie.
yeah, he, oh boy, did his life go off the rails. In the he's got legal issues section of his Wikipedia page, and as recently as January 26th this year, he was arrested on suspicion of burglary and being under the influence of methamphetamine.
Oh no!
And it's not his first time.
Hastings, when you get a Wikipedia for being the most famous comedian and also a brand, what do you reckon's more likely to be on your Wikipedia? A really extensive personal life segment, a controversy segment, or a legal issues segment?
I think it'll just be an extensive personal life section,
so did I.
and it'll be like instead of like controversial things I've said on TV shows and podcasts, it'll just be like things that don't really. Like things where people be like, yeah, then there was the whole, butt baby controversy. I don't like, but it wasn't a controversy. It was just to like, this guy's kind of had an incident as opposed to anything actually bad.
You know how often they have activism? He'll have that, but it'll be in inverted commas.
That's funny. That's quite good. Activism, and it's the same as my controversy section.
Yes.
I could see.
Bam!
Like, okay, you've seen. Have
No,
you?
that's it. It was activism.
Have you seen A Star Is Born?
I was really
No,
hiding
really
my
wasn't.
excitement to say
Don't
that.
spoil it.
All right. Okay.
I've seen A Star Is Born.
Okay. Okay.
Before you ask your question, can I just ask you this
Yeah.
question about that? I was so taken out of the entire
Please
movie
don't
just
spoil
by
it.
how ridiculous his fucking accent was the whole time.
No, I thought he was pretty sexy in it.
I thought it was so unnecessary. He could have just talked with his normal voice.
Nah, because it's supposed to be like Southern rock.
Yeah, but it was so put on.
All right, I'll use a different thing so it won't be spoiled from Jamie. If you did the Kanye West, if I did the Kanye West Taylor Swift thing,
Right.
is that appearing under personal life or controversy?
Absolutely controversy.
Controversy.
All right, well then I'll probably have a controversy page.
How would that be in personal
Can you
life?
think of the Star Is Born example I would have used instead of the Kanye example?
Yes.
Yes, that's the example I was going to use initially.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the more likely one. It involves pissing yourself.
Oh.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I can almost picture it.
I haven't shat myself since I got out of hospital. That's the main thing.
When you got like
Sick.
a counter on your wall, like 0 days since last
Because I
self
went
shit.
27 years at one stage of that shitting myself, and it's,
I told you, you fucking
happens to
really fucking cavalier. for a long
27
time.
seems too long.
I never shat myself until that time I shat myself having sex.
Yeah, but you've obviously shat yourself when you were
like as a
kid.
child. I would have gone.
Oh, I have no, like, I never at school, like,
I would have gone-
pre-memory. I have no memory of doing it, but I'm sure, yes. When
I went from the age of.
So 2 or 3.
I went
maybe.
from 9 to 28.
No, that's embarrassing, dude.
I was sick.
Yeah, I think I might have done 9.
No, actually, I
You
wasn't.
fucking loser.
No,
I
actually,
can't believe people made fun of me at school.
actually, I wasn't sick. I just sharted.
They sure did.
I sharted because my fucking eyes were fixated on my little fucking Pokemon Game Boy.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I got rid
On
of
the bus on the way
I don't-
back from an
yeah, I'm
excursion
not-
to Old
yeah.
Sydney town.
I don't think you can be embarrassed about shitting yourself when you're sick. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I guess the one I've shot myself one time out of hospital and I was not sick for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Like-
was.
Like shitting
In
yourself when
hospital.
you're sick is fine.
Yeah, I
Like,
actually don't really care. If
Like
I shit
it's
myself in
funny,
hospital.
but you wouldn't go on stage and be like, "Man, last time I shit myself, I was in the hospital."
Yeah, I just
and,
take
like,
gastro.
Yeah, people would be
whatever.
like, "Oh man, are you
Yeah.
okay?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
you
doctors,
talk about gastro, everyone be like, yeah, I had gastro. It sucks.
Yeah,
Hey?
I didn't even. But like with the hospital thing, it's like before I got the antibiotics, they were like these antibiotics will make you feel sick and stuff. Like
Yeah.
like I knew it was a possibility. I shit myself going in.
You're on stage and people are like,
I was
"Why
getting IV
is
antibiotics.
Andrew
I've
Hastings-"
shit myself during this very podcast.
I was getting hardcore. I was getting IV antibiotics because I had a deadly blood infection.
Actually, that is just based off that
Yeah.
joke. Like, if you shit yourself while we were recording, would you say anything, or would you try and get away with it?
No,
While recording,
I'd say something.
this is a comedy podcast. Last time I checked.
Yeah.
But
You
like,
gotta.
you couldn't get away with it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would just. It'd be Andy's 2 again.
we'd have to change the episode title halfway
Yeah,
through.
Andy. But
Oh,
no, but
no.
I'm saying, you get the joke. Andy's
Yeah,
yeah.
Number
Andy's
two.
number
Number
two.
two,
number
guys.
That's
two.
why you're a comedian and a brand.
All right. That's pretty good.
Operating at the top of your intelligence.
That's it. You're actually looking at an artist at his peak right now. I've been locked up for 8 weeks and don't remember how to hold a microphone.
Just like
Fucking hell.
Andrew Hayes is coming back to the comedy, just sort of like, what? Because I've been in the lab with a pen and pad. Trying to get the stand label off.
that dumber that thing I was saying.
The label is just you up.
Yeah.
That thing I was saying before about what was the bit I ran on you before? About my
parents, yeah.
middle-aged parents having a burnout 30-year-old son.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing I've come to writing a joke in like 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think I've written half an idea for a joke.
Yeah.
I today took a look at my show for the first time in a while.
I've still not listened to You Up.
Do you think how likely do you think it is that comedians that you generally like and think are good are going to come out with isolation material?
It's so impossible to say or no. I mean, I think people will have to acknowledge it.
I'm thinking maybe it will become like talked about more within like a year or so when like it's cleared up a bit and people have had some space.
Yeah.
You don't think there's anyone going to come out and be...
Oh,
There will be
yeah,
some
but I'm
people
not
who
going to
come
name
out
them.
all guns blazing.
I know
like-
some people are going to be doing. I reckon some people we like are going to do some hack shit. But like, I don't want to
Name
name
them.
I'm not going to name them.
But not even necessarily hack, but like someone like Will Anderson who like does deal with like topical stuff. Like
Oh,
he'll
no,
come
I'm
out
talking
and
about
have, like, a
people
heap of
like
shit.
close to us.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, what? Even my mate Will, who I opened for.
Yeah, your mate will.
I think we should use this time to start some shit.
Here's the thing I was just thinking about just then when we were talking about my antibiotics and shitting myself because we lost the episode where we properly talk about the appendectomy. There's no point going back into it. But
we?
during our break, my appendix
Yeah, it was
exploded
the
and I had it removed.
remote
It was the
that didn't
remote
work.
out.
Yeah.
But the point I was gonna say is like, because like if I could have died, and like particularly because it was apparently likely to have been exploded for about 24 hours before I went into hospital, which is why I was in hospital for 6 days because my blood was so infected. I had like full like septicemia and shit. Pretty rough. It's like, what would like basically the point of this is what imagine if I died. What would that be like? Jamie, paint me a word picture. What would have happened if I died?
I see what you're doing.
No, you don't want to ask this question because if you died now, no one would be at your funeral
Oh, that's true.
because
They're
you're not
expanding it to
allowed.
like 30 people. My great grandmother died a couple
I
days
mean, it would
ago.
be the
I'm
great-
not sad. It's fine. My
It would
great
be the
grandmother died.
great
They're
excuse for
they're
you.
holding off on the funeral till the numbers get bigger.
But it would be the great excuse for you.
That's true.
They'd be like, well, people just couldn't be there.
Yeah,
But-
I think the thing...
People would come.
Yeah.
No, like if like under any circumstances, a lot of people would go.
Yeah.
But I think this might have been covered in the last episode too. It might have been covered in one of the ones that came out. But I think, buddy, sorry, little pal, that like you would have been bummed out if you'd have died because I think I asked you this.
When I was dying.
I think I asked you this when you got out. Maybe I just asked you in a message somewhere.
Yeah.
But like, I think I asked you, were you disappointed with the amount of people who messaged you?
You did.
to
We had a
check in on
conversation.
you?
Yeah.
And I think your answer was kind of like, yes.
No. The answer was no. I was actually surprised by how many people were messaging me. I think I was disappointed by, like, there was another element I found disappointing, but it wasn't. I remember distinctly being surprised and, like, thought it was quite sweet how many people messaged me. But it was like, I think it was, maybe it was just who was messaging me. There might have been people who I thought
You
I
weren't
I think
being
the
messaged
word
by
I think it was
the right
comedians
people.
that you respect.
No. I just know what it was. There were people who I was hoping would message me. I'm talking about probably girls.
Yeah.
There were people a lot of people messaged me and I was touched by that. There were people who didn't message me who I'd noticed didn't, which I think is what disappointed me.
Yeah, which I think might happen in a funeral
Yeah.
sense. And this has got nothing to do with you. This has just got to do with like general selfishness during a quarantine. And also, like, I'm not saying like it's a negative thing to be selfish in something like this. Like, maybe you should take some time and be about yourself a little. Like, so it's understandable that people be like, "Oh fuck, I forgot Hastings died."
Yeah. Well,
Me-
people
me
forgot
and
that I
my-
had appendicitis in 3 days.
I
While
forgot-
I was in hospital, people were so interested in it.
I
People
forgot-
have forgotten.
I forgot it was my oldest friend's birthday until like 9 p.m. that night.
Yeah.
And like people have a
And I'd been talking to him all day.
And the thing is, like, people have a fucking short leash on like that kind of stuff anyway. Like, even if it wasn't,
Especially because it turned out I was fine.
yeah, even if it wasn't COVID, like 3 days in hospital after 6, people are like, "Is he just gonna fucking get out of there?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And then I get out and I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah,
It
and
was,
then,
while I was
like-
in hospital, it was shitty.
And
but-
then like you just have that conversation where it's like, "Wow, hospital, huh? Must have been pretty scary."
Yeah, probably pretty
Especially 'cause
hectic at this time.
it was scary for about 2 hours. It was like I was there for 6 days and I was scared for about 2 hours, and I was on morphine in that time, so that helped.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not
you
bad.
can't. Yeah. In a way, like I think you'd be right to.
When I say imagine, I was more thinking like for the podcast rather than just community. I
Oh,
thought
we
always
would
about
absolutely
comedy.
keep doing
I
it.
don't really care about comedy if I die.
I mean, we would absolutely keep doing it and replace you with a better.
Who would you
co-host.
replace me with? Because I feel like I'd be the hardest member of this podcast to replace.
No, it would just become about something kind of different, I guess.
Who would you replace me with then?
Oh man,
Bensley,
let me get the
Maybe
list.
Caution,
Let me get the list.
Alex White.
Yeah. we could do like an audition process.
It'd be Bensley or Caution, right?
I would lobby pretty hard for Bensley,
Yeah, fair enough.
but also like
He can replace me.
I'd probably also be like, I don't want to do it without Hastings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really could. Like after this long, it
Oh.
would kind of.
This is what I was looking for
it
the whole
would change
time.
it.
Yeah, he's fucking making us do his own funeral,
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for the whole time, baby. I got my
which
hair.
is like really like Stuart. I mean, like Stuart Dolman kind of did the concept, but like for you to do like the death of Andrew Hastings as a show would be like your ultimate like self-indulgent peak.
So my question was,
But his
what would
wasn't-
happen if I died? And the answer is, you are a self-indulgent piece of shit.
But that's the thing.
Yeah, but could we just
That's it.
recognize what
He'd
you
make
do?
it self-indulgent. Dolman made it like a character thing, and like.
No, I just want to see what my funeral would actually be like.
Also, like, yeah,
would you
but-
do the living funeral
no.
if you knew you were going to die?
No, because I'm the wrong type of person to do that for. I like the idea for me, but it wouldn't work for me because no one. Because okay,
I like the idea because I'd want to
My
hear what everyone
entire-
has to
Yeah,
say.
roast.
yes, that is literally it.
Yeah.
Because the entire fantasy of my life is that when I die, people will finally respect me. It's so much of my self
Because everyone's a top bloke after death.
It's
Yeah, I've
based
seen The
on
Chaser.
It's based on the idea that there's something about my face or voice or aura that makes people not respect me and bully me.
Maybe
So the idea is
maybe it's your words and your actions.
I kind of need the fantasy of the funeral to keep pushing. So so if I would have a living funeral,
That is
one,
very sweet.
it would
Yeah.
remove that fantasy element, and two, I would not. It's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for, I suspect, I would only get in a real funeral scenario.
Do you think you could do it?
What, roast Hastings at his funeral?
No, do that. Like, watch your own living funeral. Like, you know you're going to die.
I have no particular interest in doing that.
Because I would want to hear all the nice things that people have to say, but I reckon
You don't hear them if you're there in person.
And you
No, I
probably hear
reckon.
'em
I
on the
reckon
way
people.
out,
I
too.
reckon. I reckon people would, but you wouldn't quite get the full dose.
I
Like,
feel
I don't know.
there's something
I think
about it being like he like they were a great person, like as opposed to they are, but shortly will not be anymore.
I kind of understand what you mean because, like, I was thinking about like just in terms of like maybe I'd prefer like if you were dying, you'd probably prefer like the series of goodbyes because then you have like a series of personal conversations with people. But then there still is the like, but did they really think that like that?
Yeah.
And that, but that's like a very Hastingsian way to think about.
But no one's going to
something.
your funeral and like
Well,
laying you out.
no one's going to the funeral being like, I can't wait to give that fucker what he deserves.
Yeah,
And, like,
Yeah.
You don't like for Hastings especially like a lot of people. I mean, like you do and you do not realize, but like most people just roast you because like you take it so well and you're a lovely guy who can give it and be nice and be funny and be humble. Like if you were defensive, it's not half as fun to do and people
Yes.
would probably stop
Yeah.
and probably just think you were kind of a prick. Like,
If you want it to end, you need to do some fake storm outs.
I don't want anything to end.
But why? But like, why would I mean? Like, there are probably parts maybe that you'd want. Like, it'd
Was
probably
someone
be
just
better
knocking
for
at my
you-
door, by the way?
I don't know.
I doubt
It'd probably
it.
be better for your mental health if people like gave arrested like Andrew Hastings bad comedian maybe. But
Yeah.
but like like it's so much of like Hastings' thing is that like he knows he is inherently a ridiculous man.
Yes.
So he plays into it, and then when people play with it, he can play with it.
May
It's
God
like-
rest his soul.
yeah, but it just like it makes him like you don't roast people for fun unless you've got that kind of like fun, playful thing. Like it's not fun to just shit on someone who sits there and is mad or upset about it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like you don't sit and like miss while being like, "Hey, you suck. You're a fucking loser.
Well,
You're a
the-
dipshit." Like,
the one time, there was a time recently where I was like, man, I don't need this. And I went and sat somewhere else and it was great. Like, I just sat with other friends in comedy. It wasn't like I didn't storm out. I was just like, you're being weird, X-person. I'm just going to go sit over there now.
Can you tell us about that moment when we stopped recording?
I think you were there, right?
yeah, we were all there.
You were sitting next to that person.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you later. We'll stop
Yeah,
recording
that's what
in
I
20
said. Tell
seconds.
me when we stop recording.
All right. Here's my thing on the. I feel like if I were dying, it would make a lot of people very uncomfortable because I feel like people would have a lot of trouble being earnest to my face in a Hastings dying situation, and then people would have a lot of weird guilt around that.
Look,
feel
I
like
would
that
certainly
be an
find it
issue.
much easier to talk about you in a positive light if you were dead than if
Yeah,
you were there.
I feel like I'm gonna really benefit from death.
Well, also, bitch, like I fucking did a nice wedding speech for you. You're alive for that, fucker.
Yeah, well, Jamie, you're kind of weirdly the exception. Oh, baby.
It was just nice to you on the pod right now.
Thank
and
you.
I
I
have,
appre-
I've occasionally done that.
I appreciate that, people.
Does anyone have anything else that they want to say about
Nah,
this
we're
movie?
over time anyway. Let's do it.
Have we done another long episode for everyone?
A little
It's
bit.
about an hour and 15.
Yeah, which
Ooh.
considering there's 40 minutes not recorded. That was,
yeah, I've lost material.
yeah.
Which was all different,
It was all
mostly.
completely
Yeah, I don't even
different.
think you need a living funeral. And by the time
don't want one.
And by the time you actually die,
Yeah.
it's like no
In
one's,
2 weeks.
No one's going to be doing comedy. Like,
Comedy that we're not even talking about. You keep bringing up comedy. I'm not talking about
No,
comedy.
but I mean, so like the people you're worried about,
Who
like
do you want to MC
I
your
have
funeral?
friends outside of comedy.
yeah, sure. It's like, but,
But like, I'm saying, even
your
if
friends
I-
outside comedy are the people you fuck and tell them how good you are at comedy.
Yeah, that's
True.
true. That's true.
And Jack George's.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
man, I love
so
that guy.
So now, yeah, I got them all.
yeah.
But like, I think like a lot of it will just, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying like even if I stopped doing comedy, I think a lot of those friendships would be retained out. Not all, but a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely they
So,
would.
You'd have to
you know,
keep
they're just
coming
my
to-
friends who happen to do comedy.
You'd have to keep coming to comedy.
But then
I would.
your
I would.
friends are
I
gonna.
would absolutely not. If I quit, you would never fucking see me again.
Do you think so?
You guys would, but not in a comedy room.
You'd never go to a gig
It
ever.
depends. It depends on what context you quit.
I can't. You're right, but I just can't imagine me quitting in a good way.
Let's say you quit because you're just like, it's just not doing it for me anymore. You would never go to a gig again.
I can imagine a scenario in which that would bring up a lot of bad feelings and bitterness for me. Yeah,
But you don't think you'd eventually get to a point
I'm
where
sure
you
I would
could-
eventually go to a gig.
Do you
Yeah.
envision that? Oh, well, you basically just answered my question. It's like, do you separate gigs from like say if John Mulaney came? That's not a gig, right? That's like
That's
you
not a gig.
going to see a show.
I'm going to see
so
a
you'd
show.
still go to that.
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
maybe wouldn't go to.
I wouldn't come
a
hang out at
mic.
Powerbomb. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
But like,
But I'm not quitting, so don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
but like you get, but like also like you don't. I don't think you have to quit in a way where it's always
No, I just stop.
Scorched earth.
Yeah, you can just stop. I'm saying for my sake, I imagine if I wasn't gigging, I wouldn't want to hang out at gigs much.
Yeah, but you're also kind of. Yeah. No, I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
Because you definitely segued a little bit away from like a pub guy to like a house weed guy.
Yeah, well, I'm also just getting older, and I don't like drinking every night anymore. My body doesn't agree with it. Like, I like drinking a lot though. We can still get real drunk, Jamie.
I like drinking a lot.
I don't. We can still have beers, Jamie. It's okay.
That
Let's
was
end this
my-
podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Phew.
Yeah.
You wrote notes. You didn't have anything left.
I did. On
Was
the notes.
that
We're
knocking
way
at the
over
door?
time.
I think it was.
Hello? Nope. Okay. Well, now we're just all quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were done with the pod. Aren't you
No,
saying
we've got
something,
to
Jamie?
do plugs and stuff like
Oh
that.
my lord, that was the worst bit of recording we've ever done. Then.
It's because we all got
Nah, it's
scared
cool.
because I felt like there was knocking at the door and the deadlock's not locked, so someone could just barge in. Which, having said that, I'm going to go and lock it.
I think it's just like.
Quoth the Raven,
Yeah.
you up?
Yeah. Good.
I live here alone at the moment. I'm scared.
Yeah, that's probably fair. It's a pretty big house.
Yeah, it's true.
Although it's like.
Why are we
far
still
out.
recording?
It would be very hard to get in here, but
Yeah.
um,
I don't have anything. Oh, you can follow me on Twitter. No, add me on PSN. Jamie the Red.
At Andrew Hastings on Twitter, Andrew Hastings11 on Instagram. Come to Powerbomb Comedy when Powerbomb Comedy is back.
come to comedy at Papa Getty's when comedy is back. Go and like the page and we'll keep you updated. I'm at Rose Alice Piper on Twitter and Instagram. Rose Piper on Facebook. Not overly active on that, but can't hurt to
Tell your friends
up
about
the fan base.
this podcast. Share, subscribe, comment, review, whatever that stuff is. Do all the good things for us.
Yes, like, share,
Please.
subscribe.
That's it, dudes. Go ahead.
To the next step.
To the next step.
I just think that it'll be time, like one day, like the head of the ABC will come to me like, Andrew, we need you to come down to the studio and show us how to correctly rip a cone. And through that, the Australian public will also learn.
I'm just thinking, Brandrew Hastings Industries.
Yeah, that'll do.